Let's do it. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, January 9th? January 9th. Whew, got it. That was tough. I really wasn't sure what the day was. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Chris Spags. We're brought to you by us, and I will talk about that a little bit later. 7-game slate going on today with the Portland-Dallas game now taking place at 7:30, so be aware of that. And if you were waiting on Showdown, that game has been postponed. Hornets, Lakers not taking place today because of the fires. I think I've hit on everything that we needed to explain the start of the day. So now, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow us both on Twitter. Spags, what's up?
I'm excited to be here. I think, a really fun slate today. I think the value opening up, we have, I know one player that is going to be chalky that I love to death that I think Josh will critique me on in the first game, but I'm excited to do that. I think it's a really cool slate though. Like, I don't know, like there's some slates here and we obviously try to like be excited about it, and they're always fun. Like there's always a chance to win money. So I do enjoy every NBA slate on its face for the most part. But this one, like, I think there's fun wrinkles. Like there's players I like that aren't terribly highly owned. There's a lot of guys out, a lot of Q tags still, which hopefully won't make it less fun. I think it's a cool slate we got. So I'm enthused. I'm jazzed, some could say.
This is going to be a weird one today, just because I talked about this on the strategy show this morning. Just my models, just raw talent. So however many points you would expect each guy to have per possession. The top 13 guys in the league are not on the slate today. No Jokic, Wemby, Giannis, Embiid, Shea, Luka, LaMelo, AD, Tatum, Zion, LeBron, Towns, Sabonis. The highest ranked guy is 14 or 15. It's a tie of Cade Cunningham and Alperen Şengün. We don't normally have this lack of like true pay up options on a day where there's 7 games. Like if this were a 3-gamer, it would make a bunch of sense. 7 games is a lot.
I'm surprised Sabonis made that list for you.
I mean, I'm not saying that he's I don't like him in like real life, but in terms of fantasy production, the dude's just constantly putting up like overall
I thought it was like
double-double.
a fantasy agnostic thing about who's the best.
No. So this is basically just the projected stat lines from EPM and Darko, and it's just applied with the DraftKings scoring system. So it all comes out as, per 100 possession stuff. So it's, possession neutral for all of these guys. So yes, I mean, Sabonis from a DFS perspective, fantastic. But yeah, you don't normally see these situations where all of those guys happen to not be playing today. It really changes the way that you pay up for whatever we get today.
Sad for Durant to not make that top 15 too.
He just puts up the same stat line like every day, it seems. Yeah. He's oddly lower than you would expect. I'll just go until I get to Durant for you, and then we can get started. So Cade, Şengün, Franz, Ja Morant, Joval. Makes sense, obviously, but Trae Young, Steph, Banchero, Triple J, Fox, Harden, Brunson, Durant. Now, obviously, Durant is essentially the same as like a couple of those dudes that were right above him, but that's where he ends up.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be like more Franz territory if we're taking Franz and Banchero time together instead of just like what we had with Franz this year where there was no Banchero and we kind of saw a different version. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I think those guys fantasy-wise, I probably would all have ahead of Durant, I guess, on a given slate.
Durant and Mark Williams are equals here. Bet you didn't think that one.
I mean, I love Mark Williams. He's putting up 20-20-20 rates, which I always think are, the gold mine for centers.
You ready to talk about this slate?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, man. Let's have some fun. I like this one today. It's gross. Like, we got a Minnesota-Orlando game with a sub-200 total. Mm-hmm. That's pretty nasty. I hope everybody's in for Memphis because I'd like to see a really awesome Houston-Memphis game. Some of these teams today, though, they stink. Like Utah, real bad. Toronto, real bad. Let's talk about Toronto. They are 14-point dogs in Cleveland. 234 total. Cleveland coming off the dub yesterday against OKC in one of the best regular season games I can remember. Toronto coming off just being shitty every other day. Sorry, Toronto. Don't mean to do you guys like that, but it's not good. No Ochai Agbaji for today, and that's pretty much it for anybody relevant for injury news. 5% ownership to Jakob Poeltl. Nobody else on the Raptors is higher than 2. I did actually get 8% of Scotty Barnes and think he looks mildly appealing in a GPP, but this is not a team that I think anybody should be getting a lot of. And as of right now, they're the second lowest owned team on DraftKings. Do you want to play anybody from Toronto?
No, I got the Fields 5% on Jakob Poeltl. That feels like more than enough. I mean, getting Abaji out opens up a few minutes. I think Grady Dick doesn't project terribly, because of the fact that you are getting those extra minutes in. But he still has, Barrett in there, Barnes in there, Quickly in there. Yeah, I make jokes about the Toronto Big Three, but these are like a lot of high usage guys that certainly, have the usage patterns of guys that are a Big Three and have, the star treatment that goes with that. So Toronto, to me, they're all just kind of mispriced right now. Them all being in, hard to get there. Poeltl's okay. Poeltl's probably the most appropriately priced guy. Can always grab some rebounds. And we saw yesterday, Hartenstein had a great day going against the bigs for Cleveland. Just kind of kept him around the rims. Maybe you get that again for Poeltl. That's really the most strong case I can make for any of these guys.
Yeah, it's tough. I got Scotty Barnes to 10% optimal, but 12% boom. You need like 55 fantasy points out of him right now, and that's healthy against Cleveland. And they're missing Mitchell, which doesn't really make their defense that much worse. So, if it was like Mobley or Allen, maybe you'll look at it a little bit different. I don't have anything else here to add for Toronto, but we should talk about Cleveland. No Donovan Mitchell. Out for rest today makes perfect sense. Coming off of yesterday's big win, you get Toronto coming in here as 2-touchdown underdogs. They're basically playing the Argonauts. No reason to worry about this one. Get this dude a blow. He's only missed 1 game so far this year. Makes perfect sense to me. Sam Merrill, questionable. Actually, very important information today. Those additional minutes could be relevant with Mitchell already out. What we're getting right now is around 20% ownership to Darius Garland, just shy of 30 for Evan Mobley, around 10 for Jared Allen, around 10 for Max Strus, and around 20 for Ty Jerome and Karis LeVert. I think all of these guys look good. If Ty Jerome is the starter today, he will be in what I would imagine every single lineup that I have. With that assumption right now, I gave him 26 minutes. He's in 98% of my stuff. That could change a little bit if his ownership comes up. There's a lot to like here for Cleveland. What do you like? Because you mentioned that it might be something.
I love Ty Jerome. I'm glad we agree on this one.
Okay.
Ty Jerome, 3,300. He's been a monster. He's playing 1.13 fantasy point per minute pace on the year. Court time without Donovan Mitchell, 1.3 fantasy point per minute pace for Ty Jerome. Actually, 1.39. About 28% usage, 27% assist rate. And that's at 677 possessions. So whenever you have one of Mitchell or Garland out, or really haven't seen Garland be out for a full game, but like when these guys come out, Ty Jerome comes in. They like having the 2 guards be kind of a lead dominant ball handler. And Ty Jerome's got nuts in these spots. So I like him quite a bit. If he starts, he's like an absolute lock button play to me. If he doesn't start, I think he's still a great play off the bench. Like kind of got spooked on Jared Butler yesterday, but similar principles there where there's enough rotations to go around. I don't expect him to have a career high in points like Butler did yesterday, but I think the matchup is there for him to have really good production. So he's your value on the slate. Ty Jerome is it. And the other guys all look great too. Like the weird thing with the Cavs is with Mitchell off, everybody averages 1.3 fantasy points a minute or more. Garland, that's a pretty big sample size for him, about 1,000 plus minutes, 1,000 plus possessions, 480 minutes. For Jared Allen, 1.3 fantasy points a minute for him and 900 or so possessions. Evan Mobley's had the least amount of time with Mitchell off the court, but still averaging 1.38 without him. That's a little bit of a lower sample size. But they all look great. They're all really good plays, and they're facing a crappy team, and the total is really high for them, even though the spread, maybe some risk of a blowout, I guess, still.
I'm afraid to ask you this question because I don't know what number you're going to say, but what do you have Ty Jerome projected for?
I have him when accounting for the rates that he has when Donovan Mitchell is off the court. I would have him at 30.5 fantasy points today.
Okay.
Higher than the 25.9 Stokastic has, but I think still fair.
Yeah, I have 29 right now.
Oh, okay, so you're high. You're really high at him too. So
I have 1.12 fantasy points per minute in 26 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I have him. I'm today at 1.34.
And how many minutes?
In 22.5.
Okay. So we're getting there in different ways. I'm very nervous to what happens for you when well, it's probably not going to matter because you're going to get him anyway, but I'm very nervous for what happens if he is starting and you change that minutes to like 26 or 28 and you project him like he's Scotty Barnes.
He'll be a little bit high. He'll be like about 35 points, but that's still, 10x value. That's not insane.
Nope. So anyway, if he's starting, I love him. If he's coming off the bench, he's still going to be a really nice value option. I mean, we're talking about a guy that can play 20 minutes a night when they're at full strength. The status of Merrill will be important there. You'll feel a lot better about getting him if he's coming off the bench. Sort of whoever's starting in Mitchell's place. If it's Strus, he's going to look a bit better and already looks decent at 3,800. If it's Merrill, perhaps he's 3,400. He will look like a much more advantageous play. I'd be surprised if it's LeVert. That just kind of him being the first guy off the bench and like the second unit ball handler makes more sense to me. But if it's LeVert starting, he looks awesome. I got a ton of these guys, 188% to Cleveland right now. But that's essentially because Ty Jerome is in every lineup I'm making. If Jerome is not starting, he will not be in 98% of my stuff. If he is, he probably will be. They look awesome today. They should just destroy Toronto. I want to have this whole team. I'm neutral on Garland. I've got 30% of Mobley, 15% of Allen, 10% of Strus, 20% of LeVert. Like, I just want these guys.
Yeah, I'm getting at least 20% of everybody and upwards of 25% for Garland is my non-Ty Jerome high. Yeah, I really think the main thing for me is like if Jerome comes off the bench, I'm still going to be there. I won't have him lock buttoned, but I'll get him probably like 60, 70%, I think, based off the minutes we have right now. So I think he's still a good play no matter what. But yeah, like he is your must-have play if he does start for sure.
Christian Valentine said Porter is in the G League, right? No, he is not.
Ooh, fade Ty Jerome for Craig Porter. Oh, I'm so scared.
I mean, if Merrill's out, like there's a reasonable path to some Craig Porter Jr. minutes. If Merrill is in, I don't think that's happening at all. But yeah, look, it's Cleveland. Let's ignore Ty Jerome for a second. Who is your preferred Cleveland guy?
I think it's Garland. He's got the best per minute rates, and he's kind of the most real point guard. And also too, like if Ty Jerome were to fail, you're probably getting a little bit more with Garland upside wise. So I think he's also priced the best. I mean, Jared Allen's pretty cheap for a guy who just went absolutely nuts and won the slate yesterday. But I think for Garland, appropriate ownership, maybe gets a little bit less point chase than Jared Allen did. And he's probably the most logical beneficiary, but I think 25% ownership still is about right for me.
Yeah, it's basically a coin flip for me between Garland and Mobley. I've been with the same optimal rate. I think you need a little bit, you feel a little bit better about getting to Garland. But we do have quite a bit of point guards today that we could talk about. Do you have anything else here for the Cavs?
No, I think a fun team, maybe a weird starter here would change things up a little bit minutes wise. Like I know people want to see Max Strus start, and I think he's currently an okay play, but I have him under the field. But yeah, you can maybe get one more play opened up by depending who's starting, but I think I'd still play Ty Jerome no matter what.
All righty. Well, hit that like button if you can. That would be incredibly helpful for us. About 1,000 people in the door so far. We're at 125 likes. The people that are here so far making that ratio happen, but I think we could improve it by hitting that like button one more time. Schedule for the rest of the day. You guys know what's good. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. They'll go from 6 to 7. They'll handle any of the news coming in for Toronto, Cleveland, Warriors, Pistons, and we got a lot of news to wait on for Golden State and for Minnesota and Orlando. Plus, we'll have playback tonight at 7. Myself and Greg will be waiting on updates for ownership after the 7 o'clock games lock. We'll be working on late swaps for Portland and Dallas. We'll be working on late swaps for Houston and Memphis potentially too if we get that Memphis news around 7:30. And we'll be watching the games. Whichever one seems most interesting at 7 p.m. will be on the screen. You can watch along with us. You could link your League Pass account and then you just see whatever we see. Or you can get a VIP pass from us. We have 20 of those to hand out so that you can just see it all. Either way, just hanging out in playback with us, totally free. This will cost you nothing. So come join us. It's a great place. McNick says, Yahoo says Craig Porter assigned to the G League. Well, the NBA injury report says that he is not. So I'm going to go with that. Unless in 13 minutes it says that he is. He is currently not with the G League team. Golden State Warriors. Basically impossible to talk about right now confidently. However, we're going to be getting to them no matter what. Warriors are 2.5-point dogs in Detroit, 219.5 total. However, we do have some injury news that we need to deal with here for the Warriors. No Jonathan Kuminga, no Gary Payton, no Brandon Pajemski, and later on throughout the day, we got no Andrew Wiggins out for personal reasons. We're also still waiting on a Q tag for Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Moses Moody, and Dennis Schroeder. So yeah, and didn't one of these other idiots just get added, or was that a different? Was
I
that a
don't think that
different
was.
person?
You got everybody.
Hold on, was it Cam Spencer
Pat
that got
Spencer.
added?
Wait, oh wait, they have two Spencers?
No, but I'm pretty sure that I saw the name Cam Spencer becoming questionable earlier today, and it's Pat Spencer that's on the Warriors. So I'm just
Yeah.
confusing two Spencers in my brain. I obviously don't keep either one of those Spenci in my mind all that frequently. Let's just assume for a second that everybody's in. What do you like the most here? Because we're currently projecting a boatload of ownership to Trace Jackson Davis. I don't love that unless Draymond ends up out.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. It's a lot going to Trace Jackson Davis, and you have Derek Lively not too far off. You have a decent amount of pay up centers as well to go to, and the guys that are power forward center look pretty good, like including Kevin Durant. So I think there's pretty good options to go to that aren't Trace Jackson Davis. I get him as a value. He's basically iced Looney in the rotation for the most part, so that's a positive for him. But 50% ish ownership feels like a lot. I got him in 30% of my lineups. I think that's enough Trace Jackson Davis. So good value, good projection on him, but there's other decent enough values to go to on the slate and other ways to pay up and get away, from that ownership at center. So yeah, sim-wise, I got kind of moved away from him a little bit.
Yeah, I only have 10% of him. It's not that I don't think that he grades out well. I mean, 5K north of a fantasy point per minute. He's clearly a really nice value. That just feels disproportionately high for the slate that we have right now. And then we have like 15-ish% ownership coming to Curry, Green, Schroeder, Heald, and Kyle Anderson with another 10 to Moses Moody. I really don't know how to break these guys down, but I can say this. If they're all in, they all look pretty good as DFS plays today. Like, I'm not surprised to see that ownership. I have a decent chunk of all of them. And this ownership is only going to go up if we get any of the news that these dudes are out, because they're relatively thin right now with bodies. I believe they only have 11 dudes. I could be wrong. Let me double check it.
I think Guy Santos is getting like a fractional projection from Stokastic, and then
Quentin Post.
Quentin Post. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that makes, or does that make 12? Does Post make 12?
Yeah.
Curry, Wiggins, Green, Schroeder, Anderson, Heald, Looney, Moody, Waters, Davis. Oh yeah, they've got more than enough. How is that? I don't know if I'm just doing really bad math. Ignore what I just said. We'll roll that back. Cut
It
that
is 12.
out.
Yeah, I keep 12 on my sheet, and I have 12
Yeah.
guys with minutes. So yeah.
Yeah, same. Cut that out then. So I mean, it could be bad if they're all out. I don't expect them all to be out, but I want to get a bunch of Steph here who is going to have the literal green light. They don't have anything left offensively. I'm happy to get to Draymond. I'm happy to get to Schroeder if he's in. I think Buddy Hield, if he's starting at 3,600, becomes really interesting. And then you start getting into these weirdos like Moody and Waters and Slow-Mo and Looney and all these other guys. I think we're going to end up with a lot of the Warriors. What are you figuring? Like one guy or two guys out, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, the total does feel a little bit off, but Detroit's been pretty good and Golden State's been pretty bad, to the point where Steph is kind of burying the teams to the media, calling them mid, saying like I thought they would get better on the back-to-back, or the second game rather in a row, and they didn't. So he's been kind of shitty to the team lately, but it does feel like with that total, it seems like Steph being out wouldn't be crazy. Maybe Steph and Draymond. So I'm not sure about that, but I agree there's big opportunity here. So like there hasn't been a lot of court time this year without Wiggins and Kuminga, which kind of surprised me, let alone those two and Podziemski out. But that's three pretty big usage guys coming out of that rotation. As a result, I would think that it's going to look better for Buddy Hield. He's at a 25% usage rate, not enough sample size to feel great about it, but seems like he would be the big wing beneficiary in terms of how I would view it. And the rates back that out. Steph's usage going up to 35%, I think, makes him an interesting play. I'm getting him at 20% compared to the Field's 15. But Hield's the one I probably cape for the most, because like I didn't give him a big rate jump up, just kind of knocked the usage up a little bit. But he's been producing like over 1.1 fantasy points per minute without those guys. Again, not a full perfect sample size over that 5 or 50 possessions that we want to have. But in general, I think Hield probably benefits. And if he starts, like Josh said, he's a good play. But it's pick your own poison. Like Schroeder could take more usage on. Like he could be the best version of himself, especially if you got Steph and Draymond out. With all these guys in, they all look pretty good plays. If you certainly get more guys out, then it's whoever's left is going to look, I think, amazing.
We're going to need this news, and this is the game, and one of the big reasons that you watch Live Before Lock, guys. That's what makes that show amazing, because at some point in time from 6 to 7 o'clock, we're going to find out those Q tags, and however they break, it's going to completely change the slate if people are out. because we're going to end up getting to something somewhere that looks pretty damn good. Now, if they're all in, they're already 140% owned. They're the most owned team with all those Q tags right now, and it's probably going to go up if we get any news that these guys are out. So this is the team to target. Detroit is not really the team to target. 20% ownership coming into Cade Cunningham, around 10 for Asar Thompson, essentially zero for everybody else. How do you feel about Cade, who is, for today, the second most expensive guy on the slate at 10,200?
It's nice to see Cade get that 10K price up. I feel like it's been well deserved with him playing at about 1.3 fantasy point per minute pace this year. And you still have Jaden Ivey out, and he's been playing about a 1.45 fantasy point per minute pace with Ivey out. So I think the price tag's deserved. He did bomb really terribly yesterday. Weird second quarter rotation too, where he came in like with 1 minute left and felt like he should have been in earlier, played less minutes as a result of that. Also playing terribly to start the game. So that could be obviously factoring in a little bit as other guys were playing well. But I think Cade in a bounce back spot here, depleted Golden State team that's defensively decent when they have everybody, but now you're talking Wiggins out, Kuminga, not a great defender, but at least kind of stay with guys. I think it's better for Cade here, especially with Wiggins. Like Wiggins would probably be the one who would do the most work on Cade, and now you're gonna have Schroeder and Steph, or I don't know what else on the wing trying to take him. So Cade in a bounce back spot, feel pretty good about 40% of him. No big stands here for anything else. 10% of Malik Beasley, who I think does benefit quite a bit from Jaden Ivey, as we saw yesterday. He went off. Oscar Thompson back in looks okay, but he's definitely the lesser Thompson twin on the slate. I think Cade, though, is a good pay up option today in a slate where there aren't really any.
Yeah, I thought I would get a little bit more of Cade, and I didn't. And I'm not super happy about that. But I am way over the field on Durant right now, and he's kind of becoming my preferred pay up option. And then I have a bunch of Lauri Markkanen right now, a bunch of Bam Adebayo. So I'm going a little bit more balanced, it appears. But that could also just be I would assume based on the amount of Ty Jerome I had that I could get up a little bit further. But the problem with taking Ty Jerome and putting him in every lineup, point guard only, is that the two pay up options today are Trae Young and Cade Cunningham, both point guard only. So interesting dynamic. I almost wish that Ty Jerome wouldn't start so I can get more Cade and more Trae.
I'm getting my Cade healthily, even though I'm getting all Ty Jerome. So you guys got to prioritize better, get more Cade.
Well, I'm happy to get my KD right now.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good matchup. High total for Phoenix too.
Yeah, a lot of fantasy points to go around in that one, and no Bradley Beal in the starting lineup. Womp womp. Anything else for the Pistons? Because I only have Cade.
Yeah, no, Cade, Beasley, Thompson are it for me. And then again, Cade is like a stand. The other guys are just plays him in at 10%.
All righty, here we go. Minnesota and Orlando. Blech. Now, this could be an awesome game if everybody were healthy, but they're not, unfortunately. Well, not on the Orlando side. Minnesota, 6.5-point favorites in Orlando, 199 total. And I have this pace at 93.6, which is 8 possessions slower than the Houston-Memphis game. This is dreadful. I would give anything for Orlando to be at full strength because this would be a really fun game, although a bit of a defensive slog. Minnesota is the exact same team we see every single day. Nothing ever changes. They run the same rotations. No one ever enters that rotation. The highest owned guy for Minnesota is 6% to Anthony Edwards. Everybody else is below that on both sites. Do you want anything here from Minnesota? I'm intrigued by one particular guy here.
I got 6% Naz Reid, and that's it. I think there's interesting tournament plays with Edwards priced where he is. Less so Julius Randle, but maybe. But I think Ant, a kind of gritty matchup here where, should be competitive theoretically. Tough defense. I could always kind of take a shot at him when he's not very highly owned. But yeah, really, Reid is a value play, power forward center, I think works okay. But you get him on every slate, I feel like a little bit if you're playing more than one lineup. Nothing else here stands out. So yeah, it's just not a high total, not a good matchup on paper. But Ant, tournament shots, Reid, value, that's probably it.
If Rudy Gobert's 3% owned and Trace Jackson Davis is 48, I'd rather spend an extra $500 and get different on Rudy Gobert here. Now look, Gobert's not great anymore. He's like a 0.9 guy. He's not the same dude. He's 5,500 and 3% owned here. I don't love this matchup. It's clearly worse. It's slow. It's defensive. That feels like a bit of too big of a disparity between the two.
I think
crazy.
It's a fair point. I know it's a good point. It's a fair point.
Riddle me this. What do you have Trace Jackson Davis projected for?
I think I have him at 30. Let me see. I have him at 30.1.
What do you have Rudy Gobert projected for?
26.1.
Okay. How many minutes?
32.2 minutes, but he's been
Okay.
at a 0.86 pace this year, and I wait this
Yeah.
season a little bit more.
Yeah, I got 33 minutes, 0.89. I don't know. It's a pivot that I think is interesting in large field stuff right now. That lack of ownership is appealing to me.
I mean, you're talking about too, like a 50% owned play. So I think if you just chop that ownership up, like that's always a logical approach for the game theory of it. And the concept of equilibriums is talked about by some sharp players like Nerdy Tenor out there, where like the field knows how to own guys. So like if you know the field's
Yeah.
going to be there a lot on Trace Jackson Davis, try to get leverage against him. So I think it's
Yeah.
totally logical, even though I'm not like crazy in on Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, like I would happily take 30% of Trace Jackson Davis to have 15% of Rudy Gobert. And I think that push-pull there is kind of interesting. I mean, let's think about this. I have Rudy Gobert's target score for today, or a $5,500 point score. I guess that's really the way to say it. It's not just specific to Gobert. 36 and a half fantasy points. Just out of curiosity, when's the last time he did it? That would be his most recent game, 41 and a half fantasy points against the Pels last time out. He had 34 and a half the game before that. 3 games in a row that were dog shit, 44 against the Spurs on the 29th. Like, I just don't think 36 and a half is all that problematic today on a 7-gamer. He's under-owned. I'm putting that out there. Get yourself some Rudy Gobert.
You want to point chase Rudy Gobert. I get it. That's your style of play. You see a guy had a couple good box score games. You're like, I got to go here.
You know me. Noted box score watcher. Noted box score watcher. But either way, for Minnesota, I mean, all these guys usually look the same. They all play the same minutes. The salaries never really move. DiVincenzo is what seems like locked into that new starting point guard role. So the other side that we get to is Orlando. We don't have Paulo Banchero projected in anymore. It looks like he's coming back tomorrow. No Gary Harris, no Jalen Suggs, no Franz Wagner, no Mo Wagner. Kind of a bummer that those guys are out. No one getting any love here from Orlando except it's Cole Anthony season. 24% owned on DraftKings, 5,800 point guard, shooting guard eligible. I've got 45% of Cole Anthony. I hate it, but I really don't know what else to do with him. The minutes, by all account, seem like they're there. He played 37 last time out. He got 34 on January 3rd with essentially all of the same situations. Anthony Black was out for that one. I don't think that is moving the needle too much here for Cole Anthony. I think we're going back to him, but boy, oh boy, is it scary because that dude is ripe for like 2 for 19 from the field against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's a little scary. I'm with you on that. I mean, we talked yesterday about worrying about, at least I was worried about one of the Cavs guards getting kind of shut down by the Thunder. Ended up being the now resting Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I worry about in the same situation here where they can just keep trying to trap Cole Anthony, make him really try to earn it. And he can a little bit, but like with how much I have him, I'm in 50% of my lineups. So the same page as you. He's had a 30% usage rate, 30% assist rate in court time without Suggs, without Wagner, without Banchero. Like he's been that guy. Sample size is pretty stable in terms of the amount of time it's been as well. So I'm comfortable going to Cole Anthony, but I do feel like if he misses shots, teams just loses. Like they can't score points without Cole Anthony giving him probably at least 20 here. So a little bit of risk to Cole Anthony, but I think he's worth it at that price tag still. A little bit too cheap for the opportunity. And Batadze, I think, is also not a bad play. Have about 10% of him. He's a guy, too, that gets a pretty big rate bump up. He's been playing pretty well at about a 1.12 fantasy point minute pace this year. And, again, Gobert, I'm not the biggest fan of. So him going head-to-head with Gobert, I think might be a little more beneficial for Batadze than one would think based on the historical Goga Batadze.
Any thoughts on the man that got 25 minutes out of nowhere in their last game? $3,400 power forward center, Jonathan Isaac.
I don't have Isaac coming up for me too much. I have him at a 17.9 projection. Got him in 1% of lineups compared to the field's 4. I have him decently projected. I have him higher tech. Actually, no, I'm a little bit lower than Stokastic. Never mind. But he's over a 5x value. I just don't think the projection's high enough for him. But if he did get that extra 5 minutes in projection, like he's projected for 17.3 today, that could certainly make him look more appealing. But I certainly would take Ty Jerome starting or off the bench over Jonathan Isaac, even with the positionality of it. I would take that 9 times out of 10. So if you want a pivot point, though, I think Isaac's probably as credible of a pivot point as most guys on the slate.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the fact that he played as much as he did. Like 25 and a half minutes just out of nowhere. And for no real reason that I can tell, like he essentially just backed up Caleb Houston for a bit and just played a lot. Are they stretching him back out? Because if you project Jonathan Isaac today for 22 minutes, he's probably 30+% owned. So I think I'm intrigued by him in GPPs. I might over project him a bit just to get him because we're talking about a guy that's a fantasy point per minute guy when he's out there. If he's not the 16-minute a game guy now and he's going to be 20 to 22 to upwards of 25, that's kind of appealing. And is this the kind of game you want him for? Just really hassle whoever's out there, whether it's Ant or McDaniels, just put him out there and just wreak havoc? Maybe. Maybe.
And just get some length back too, because Minnesota's got a lot of those long guys on the wing. So maybe just having somebody to throw it back at him. I can see the logic here. Like I think, and two with Orlando, like with these low totals on both sides, maybe having an Isaac as a defensive stopper in kind of goes hand in hand with the totals being really shitty in the game.
Yeah, that's the guy I want to keep my eye on. It's just weird. As I say, weird situation for him to just get a minutes bump out of nowhere. Will they continue it? Will he explode if they try to do it again? We don't know for sure. All right, guys, we're up to 1,500 people. Ooh, 239 likes. We are making good progress. No reason we can't get that up over 300. Now, I told you guys, we're sponsored by us today, which means you guys should sign up at Stokastic. Very easy. Link in the description of this video. You click that link, you sign up through one of our partners. You're going to get a month of our sims and all the rest of whatever sport you're looking for, assuming it's NBA. That would be projections, ownership, the boom bust tool, contest generator, all the simulation stuff, the single lineup simulator, post-contest sims, premium Discord. You get all of it. All you have to do is follow the instructions for whichever site you're signing up. It could be a pick'em site, could be a sportsbook. You'll see all of those links. All of the instructions are there. You're going to get a bonus from them, either bonus bets, deposit bonus, something. It's a really easy way to get in behind the paywall. And I personally think right now is the best time to do it. Football's thinning out. We're getting into the playoffs. NBA is going to go hard in the paint until mid-February when we hit the All-Star break. If you sign up right now, you're basically getting this essentially up until the All-Star break. You'll be a couple days short, but either way. Now's the time to get in, everybody. This is the best time of the NBA right now. Because when you get back from the All-Star break, you start getting a little bit more tanking going on. It's kind of gross. MLB's starting to come in. This is the peak of the NBA season. Come in right now. Click that link and sign up. Oh, little super chat here. I recognize that handle. You guys might recognize it as well. It was in first last night in the main contest on DraftKings. And if you didn't notice it in first, maybe you noticed it in second. J187, shout out to Jason Tiberio, man behind the scenes at Stokastic, picking up first and second over 120K yesterday. Solid Wednesday. Appreciate that super chat, brother.
Well, I finished top 200, so take that, Jason.
I also had two in the top 100, but they weren't first and second. They were 60th and 99th or something.
I think with a lesson we learned a long time ago, if you finish top 200, it's like finishing first. It's all run good from that point. So what are we going to do? I've had a lot of tournament wins finishing top 200 in the last week or so.
Curry in. Draymond in.
Oh. You made that sound
Moses
like
Moody
out.
Moses Moody out.
Okay.
Who's left? Oh, it's Schroeder's left.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Give it to me so I can keep going.
And Malcolm Brogdon out tomorrow. Let's see that.
Nothing on Schroeder yet. We'll find out. So yeah, Steph in, Draymond in, Moses Moody out. Moody Moses, Modi Moosey. Fucking perk moron. Anyway, Portland. Dallas. Blazers are 7.5-point dogs in Dallas. 220 total for the Blazers. Weird team today. Jeremy Grant still out with a face contusion. Time Lord questionable for rest. Donovan Clingan available after resting yesterday. 7% ownership to Kamara. 8 to Simons. 10 to Sharp. 15 to DeAndre Ayton. I like these guys a little bit more than I do right now earlier today. But I am 2xing a 6K DeAndre Ayton. I'm 2xing Tumani Kamara at this moment, and I'm about around the field on Anthony Simons, a little light on Sharp and Denny. Do you like Portland here? I like these starters.
I got 8 and 17%, so I like him. I do feel like I've had Simons and Sharp low down this run they've had lately, but that's sort of the issue is like I don't want to overproject them. I don't want to tweak things too much, try to force my way to him more. And I have Sharp today as a 5x value, a little bit more than that, but only getting 3% of them. So I'm low on him. I have to say, like, and again, I hate box score chasing. It's one of the things you try to avoid for the most part. But observing Portland lately, it doesn't look like it with the total they have today, but they've been really feisty the last couple games and obviously really high fantasy upside lately, obviously winning tournaments. So I get it. You're seeing that part. But if I were going to try to chase anything and just go, you know what, Portland's playing well, I'm going to ignore the Vegas total, ignore the projections and go there. I think it's reasonable to go to Portland because Sharp and Simons look like a pretty potent 1-2 duo right now. Just Jeremy Grant being out is opening things up for him, but doesn't really reflect in the rates. So I can't get there naturally projection wise. But I think if you're going to kind of hold your nose on projections and just try to cram some guys in, I think Sharp and Simons like just feel like they maybe turned a corner and they could turn it right back today, but they feel like they turned a corner.
Yeah, I think these guys look good. I like having pieces of Portland. There's no Luka Doncic on the Dallas side. There's no Kyrie Irving. Like this is as competitive of a matchup as Portland is going to get. Unfortunately for me, though, DeAndre Ayton being my biggest stand, 33% of my lineups right now. I assume I'm going to get a bunch of him. And he's another guy that's sitting at 6K. Yeah, he's $1,000 more expensive than Trace Jackson Davis. Now with Draymond in, I'm happy to pivot to Ayton here, who potentially, if Daniel Gafford ends up out, Ayton's going to get some minutes alongside or against Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleba at the 5, or a stretch PJ Washington. Like, I kind of like it for Ayton. Yeah, I have more of Portland than the public does, which feels great for one of the shittiest teams in the league. That's not true. It feels awful. Now for Dallas. Oh, the Pelicans are waiving Trey Jameson, who I legitimately forgot was still on the Pelicans.
They're too busy with Carl Matlovic. They want to get him more burn.
Absolutely. Around 10% ownership to PJ Washington, around 15 for Najee Marshall, just shy of 15 for Derek Lively. And as I mentioned, we are waiting on the news for Daniel Gafford, who is questionable right now. And Luka and Kyrie are out. I am very light here on Dallas. Under on PJ Washington, under on Najee Marshall, 0 shares of Derek Lively. What do you want to do with Dallas?
I'm getting these guys more than you are. I'm getting 21% Najee, a little bit above the field there. The point Najee Marshall experiment seems to have quickly evaporated. What a run it had, that one half it had. But he's still getting good minutes out there, projected today for about 28 minutes. I guess, actually, no, 30 minutes now by Stokastic. So I think Najee Marshall getting that amount of run at that price tag, being small forward, power forward, you can get to him. Derek Lively, I'm at 15% of, so basically holding hands at the field. No big stand there. He'll look better if Gafford's out. You have Maxi Kleber coming for minutes in the last game. Might be more of a matchup thing. Was a little bit odd to see him get dusted off, get that much run. That does pose a little bit of a risk for Lively that you now have 2 guys with Powell there as well that could pull minutes from him, but they're not Gafford. So if Gafford were out, I'd still take shots at Lively. I'm getting a lot of Quentin Grimes. Grimes has been the biggest beneficiary of no Luka, no Kyrie on the court, averaging over 1 fantasy point per minute, starting to assist more, good usage. He's had 2 games lately over 35 fantasy points, 2 out of the last 3, 1 last time out over 40. The minutes get jerked around from him a little bit. He's only projected to play about 28 today, I believe. But if you get a few more, if you got to start, especially, he's been playing really well off the bench. Maybe they don't want to change that up. But I like Grimes. Grimes has really made some growth this year in a way that I'm surprised by. And Washington, I'm getting 15% of, which is with the field, so no stand there. Grimes is like the stand I have here, I think. I like Quentin Grimes.
I don't hate it. Price scares me just a little bit, but you're getting great positional eligibility and not really any competition for minutes. So I don't hate going that direction, especially against a team like Portland. Game Rock, just for the record, that money line change isn't crazy at all. It makes perfect sense. That's what happens when Steph Curry and Draymond Green are confirmed to play, because if they're not playing, they're a really shitty basketball team. When they do play, they're less shitty. It should make all of the sense in the world for why that line would move. The least crazy thing that's ever happened in anything. I also, while we got the super chat from Jason based on his big win, we also got 50 gifted subs from our boy Jorge. I missed it while we were doing it. Jordan let me know, and I didn't want to miss it. Jorge, big supporter of the channel. Happy to have him around. He dropped off the 50 subs for everybody in YouTube. So congrats to everybody that just snagged a YouTube subscription to us. Enjoy it, everybody. Houston Rockets, Memphis Grizzlies. Rockets are 1 point dogs in Memphis, 233 total. We'll start on the Houston side, which surprisingly, Tari Eason is doubtful. I didn't expect to see that. Jabari Smith still out. 10% ownership to Van Vliet, 10% ownership to Jalen Green, 10% ownership to Dylan Brooks, 10% ownership to Alperen Şengün, 60 to Amin Thompson, and I've got 68. He's the bell of the ball here, even at 7,100. Shooting guard, small forward eligible, playing like 38 plus minutes every night. Give me Amin Thompson, but I'm happy to get the rest of those starters either in and around the field or a little bit above it.
So I guess I'm quote unquote fading Amin Thompson by having only 39% here.
Okay.
But he's playing 40 minutes a game. I get it. I just like you want to play him as super chalk against Washington. He's gonna go nuts for 50 there. I understand how that happens. You're playing a Memphis team that's like pretty legit here, assuming you have the guys starting. And you get Ja Morant in, you get Bane in, you get Jaren Jackson in. Like I don't know that he has the same upside there, even the rebound upside in this high of a total game. He's been ripping boards. He's playing a ton of minutes. He will get you stocks and whatever. The usage is okay. He can't hit threes. So that's a little thing to take away. I'm just not sold on him being a 70% play, I guess, is really the main thing for me. Shooting guard, small forward helps, but if I get him in half the field's lineups, I think I'm getting more than enough Amin Thompson. So that's really the big stand I have here. I'm pro Şengün. I'm low on Van Vliet, with the field on Brooks, low on Jalen Green. And Şengün, I think, is really your pay up center option. There's really not a lot to go to there, and he's got the most upside. But Amin Thompson, like, it's a lot of Amin Thompson, and it scares me even with the getting 40 minutes a game kind of thing.
I don't disagree. Like it does feel like a big number. The matchup is potentially scary depending on how all of the Q tags shake out. It does look like these guys are going to be in today, which will be interesting. We'll hash that out in a bit. I wouldn't mind having a little bit less. I kind of wanted a little bit less last time out. That wouldn't have been the right decision, and so that kind of helped me. I think he's just really good. The good thing for him is that he's gonna fill out the stat sheet sort of no matter what. He's not like we're not waiting on him to take 15 threes and hope they go down. Like he's going to get out in transition. He's probably getting easier buckets. The rebounds are just sort of going to be there, or at least should be there. Dennis Schroeder will play, by the way. You know, he'll pick up a couple extra assists. He's going to be active defensively for stocks. I feel like his floor is a little bit higher than some other guys in this spot. It's really the position that's helping me. Not to mention the fact that it's an 8 o'clock start. I'm happy to be heavier here. And, you know, if anything weird happens with Houston, like maybe we don't get Memphis news until 7:30. I'd like to have a little bit more of Amin Thompson at that point. Maybe that allows me to shift some stuff around before this game starts if Memphis breaks wrong or something weird happens with Portland and Dallas. But I don't think it's crazy to be like in that 30 to 40 range. That's pretty reasonable to me. What do you want to do with the rest of these guys, though? Van Vliet, Green, Brooks, Şengün. Anybody jump out more than the others?
Yeah, I think Şengün's the only one I would really make the case for. I think he's a good pay up option at center, like I mentioned. So to me, there aren't a lot of centers you want to go to that have that 50, 60 fantasy point upside. He's one of them on the slate. Going against Memphis, who has Jaren Jackson, but you know, the other centers out there, not the best players in the world, certainly. In terms of stopping a guy like Şengün. So I'm willing to go there, and everybody else, again, I'm under on Van Vliet, under on Jalen Green, with the field on Brooks. But yeah, like I get your Amin Thompson takes. I think it's fair to go with the field on him. I think it's fair to be a little bit under on him. Probably wouldn't full fade him no matter what. And I was definitely on the outside looking in on him last time out because I'm like, I'm going to move away from it a little bit. Too easy of a spot. It was too easy of a spot. That's why I put up 50 fantasy points. I don't think this is as easy of a spot for him, but I get your point about transition, high totals. It makes sense. I think you made a good case.
Daniel Gafford, available to play. Now, Memphis. This is going to sound a lot like everything we said for Golden State. Last time we talked about Golden State, we immediately got their news. So hopefully this happens as well for the Memphis Grizzlies. Gigi Jackson, Marcus Smart, Vince Williams out. Santi Aldama, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Ja Morant, and Cam Spencer, the missing Spencer that I had no idea who existed. They're all questionable right now. There is zero ownership coming in to Memphis. 2% to Aldama, 1 to Bane. They're not going to look good here. This is a massive pace down spot for Memphis, a huge pace up spot for Houston. We have no idea how many minutes some of these guys can play. We have no idea what this rotation will look like. If one or two of these guys are out, maybe something looks a little bit better. if for some reason all of these guys are in, I would be shocked if I play a single share of anybody for the Grizzlies.
If all these guys are in, they're some of the worst values at their price tags we've had on DK slate probably this entire year. So they don't look playable at all. Jackson's been priced up for life without Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, and that's now not appropriate for him. Ja Morant has kept his price tag. Bane has kept his price tag. Those guys don't look that good. Aldama, I got 2% of, so that's something there if he's going to play. But power forward, 5,100, that's the reason why for that. Really just one of the worst projected teams I think you can have. Just these guys are not priced for the situation of all of them being in.
I don't know how it would have to break to actually see this be interesting, but I don't even think it's possible. They'd have to all be out.
Yeah. I mean, like legit 4.1x value for me on Jackson, 3.9 for Morant, 4.1 on Bane. Like I don't think they're where they need to be with the minutes they're getting in, especially guys coming in like Morant off an injury.
Yeah. Like if we somehow get no Bane, no Morant, no Aldama, but Triple J is in, I'm curious to see how he ends up looking because we're talking about a guy that ends up getting like a 34% usage rate. We don't have those the competition of pay up options. The two real pay up options are both point guards, so getting to Jaren still seems pretty easy. If we do get that Ty Jerome value, that makes Jackson easier. I'm intrigued by what that could be, but that is I mean, we're way down the line of needing the injury news to break right just to look at him. So we're going to need that news, everybody. Anything else for Memphis?
No, just I think you need to know more, like you said.
Alrighty. Final thing to talk about would be you guys hitting that like button. 1,800 people, 320 likes. This ratio is awesome for what we have right now. Makes me think we could get to 500, but that's going to take a little bit of work out of you guys. There are 1,500 of you in here that have not hit the like button yet. That seems incredibly rude. This is a free show, guys. It costs you nothing. All you have to do is click one little button, bloop, and all of a sudden it's a like for us. Helps us out a ton. So if you can, do it. Buckle up, everybody. Spags is going to have 100%. Davion Mitchell is available to play for today.
That's true. Yeah. When you have all the Raptors in, that's when you want to go to Davion Mitchell to get people off his scent a little bit.
The Atlanta Hawks, 6-point dogs in Phoenix, 238 total. 10% ownership to Trae Young, 10% ownership to Bogdan Bogdanovic, 10% ownership to Onyeka Okongwu. Now, Bogdanovic is questionable. Okongwu is questionable. Jalen Johnson is still out. Trae Young is probable. Are you getting to any Atlanta here? I have very little of these guys, and I don't like the spot. They lose 2.9 possessions below their average taking on Phoenix. This is a slow matchup for the Hawks.
So slow matchup, but pretty good total for Atlanta, pretty good total for the game. So it kind of seems like a spot to not hate. One thing that stood out to me, and I think it's kind of a prior I had in my head, and obviously the data takes care of it, so I don't have to worry about it too much generally. But like Phoenix's defense is really bad now. They're really bad. Like obviously they were a finals team a couple years ago, where it was a slog it out kind of team, really defensively minded. They've lost a lot of guys since then. But now they're just like a shitty defense, like, a blended sample from last year into this year, about 116 defense efficiency rating, or offensive efficiency that they're allowing. Like they're just not giving up. They're not doing lots to stop teams. So Trae Young being 10% owned, about half the ownership, maybe a little bit less than that, of Cade Cunningham, I think is a pay up option, makes some tournament sense. I'm not there naturally though. Projection wise, these guys don't look that good. I got less than 5% of everybody in the sim. Highest I got was Trae Young at 4%. But I think there's a logic here because like this looks like a decent Atlanta Hawks total, 116.3 implied points. Phoenix sucks. The game total's pretty high. Phoenix expect to score a lot of points. So I think you might get a tournament shot from somebody here.
Yeah. I would like to have a little bit more Trae. I think I will end up with more of him if the Ty Jerome stuff goes the opposite way. I think just locking him into the point guard spot for 100% is really blocking me out of those top 2 point guard dudes. So we'll see how that redistributes later. I definitely like Okongwu more than Capella if he's in, but that's an interesting Q tag. I'm intrigued by Bogdanovic, shooting guard, small forward, 4,400. Got a little bit of a minutes bump last time out. Could always fall into like 28 from time to time, but yeah, I really don't have all that much of Atlanta, so I'm gonna pay close attention to those Q tags. And then we get to Phoenix. This is the team I have. Well, by team, I mean the guys that are real. The Phoenix Suns are favorites here. There's some ownership coming in to 2 people and 2 people only. One of them is Devin Booker, 30%. The other is Kevin Durant, 30%. I've got 35 of Booker. I've got 50 of Kevin Durant. If we were looking for the guys that I'm paying up for right now, Booker and Durant are those guys. They gain 2.8 possessions above their average. These guys could look even better if Onyeka Okongwu happens to be out. That will definitely lessen the defensive impact from Atlanta at least a little bit. Not that that's going to matter all that much for the way I have projections or anything, but I like Booker a lot. I like Durant a lot. I think it's a benefit to have made those starting lineup changes from a fantasy perspective. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it from a real life perspective, but it seems to be working so far. Give me Booker, give me Durant, but I prefer Durant just by a little bit.
I prefer Durant by a lot. I'm getting 40% Durant and only 13% Booker, so it's a little bit of a stand for me. I do think that, if these guys were lesser owned, like if the field were at 40% Durant, 13% Booker, I'd probably go get more Booker. But they're going to be 25% owned on Booker anyway, so I don't know what I'm really gaining there. But I think they both look like good enough plays. I just am higher on Durant. And I also am higher on Cade, so I think I'm getting a lot of Cade Durant lineups together. So like that's sort of naturally pulling away a little bit from Booker getting there. But they both look equally good. Again, it's a high total here. I was shocked to see this be like almost a 123 point total. So like, really high numbers for Phoenix overall on the spot. One of the highest totals on the slate, I think might actually be the highest. And Atlanta can't defend even with the centers Josh talked about. Like they're still a terrible defensive efficiency team. So yeah, Phoenix, I think pretty good up top. The other guy's not playable, I think, besides Durant and Booker.
Yeah, Atlanta second in pace, 20th in defense. That is going to make Phoenix look a bit better just from a matchup perspective. I don't have anybody else here. No Beal, no anybody. I mean, no one's getting ownership. 1% Beal, 1% done. I have zeros across the board.
Yeah, 1% done. I got 2, but that doesn't even feel like worth. I could go away instantly and I wouldn't care or notice.
Final game, you ready?
Yep.
The Miami Heat are 5.5 point favorites in Utah. 222 total. The Heat obviously still without Jimmy Butler. Tyler Hero available. Josh Richardson questionable. I think he's missed 25 straight games or something. No Kevin Love in this one. 20% ownership coming into Jaime Jaquez. 15 to Bam Adebayo. 15 to Scary Terry. And around 5 for Tyler Hero. You getting anything here for Miami? Because at the very least, they're facing a team that isn't very good.
Get a lot of Jaime Jaquez here. The game before last, when they had double overtime, he ended up playing about 46 minutes in that one. 35, or obviously 36 of which would have then been in regulation. So pretty big run there. Last game, which was a back-to-back for Miami, Hero and Jaquez both got pulled in the fourth quarter because they just were playing so many minutes the night before. No reason to keep him out there. But Jaquez is now back in the role. Seems like they're trying to salvage their investment here with Butler out. He's been a pretty good producer with Butler out as well, just shy of 1 fantasy point per minute. So willing to go to Jaquez today. I got him in 59% of my lineups, which a little bit aggressive. I also have him better projected, though, than Stokastic by about 5 fantasy points. So team Jaquez. Low on the other guys, low on Bam. I know Josh said he was high on him, so I'm sure he can make a pro Bam case, but I'm only getting 3%. Getting 1% Rozier. I am high on the field on Hero by a little bit, getting just shy of 10% on him. Think he's your one tournament option with big upside that's not going to be owned to slate. Trae Young, maybe comparable a little bit there. But I think Hero's got the upside going against a shitty Utah team, and Tyler Hero going to the land of white people feels appropriate. So like Jaquez the value, Hero tournament upside, low on the other guys.
Did I say that I was high on Bam?
I think you said you had more than the field of Bam by a good amount earlier.
Did I really? What would have been the context of that? I didn't know that until I brought up Miami.
Paying for somebody else, and like you were like, I'm paying for Bam, and I was like, oh, Bam.
Oh, I remember when I worked my way down the list. I was like, dude, I don't know how you know that because I didn't remember that I said that. Yeah, I have 33% of Bam at 14% ownership, but to me, like, I had not seen anything that we've done for this game yet. It's just not on my screen. I forgot that I looked down the list when we were talking about the pay up options. Yeah, I was like, dude, I pay attention. I was like, do you know? Are you in my workbook right now? Like, how do you know that? I didn't know that. I would have been like, I probably don't have Bam before I clicked on this game.
I'm just here hacking away on your computer, getting all the good data and then spitting it back out and pretending it's my
for real. For real. So yeah, either way, I'm 2xing the field on Bam right now. He has been a very interesting dynamic in the offensive side of the ball so far this season, but hopefully today is a little better. Again, I'm happy to have a bigger stand on people in later games that will create a little bit more flexibility. I'm neutral on Jaquez. I'd like a little bit of Tyler Hero. I don't have him. I appear to be getting more of the Durant and Booker group around that salary tier. I don't have a single share of Terry Rozier, which is kind of weird because I get that dude from time to time. I just don't have any of them right now. My only exposure to Miami is Bam and Jaime Jaquez. I will say this, though. If today is one of the days where Nikola Jovic plays 34 minutes, that's an interesting GPP option. He might play 6 because you never know, but if today's one of those days, I like it.
He would also pull from Hawkes too, I think, because that's happened in the past when Hawkes has been chalk for me at the very least, if not for the field. So Jovic and Hawkes, I think, have a little bit of an inverse relationship there for hitting minutes highs.
People didn't people a little confused here by what's going on in the state of Utah. People are surprised to hear you call it the land of white people. They are 90%.
In fact, the players talk about it often and how they often hear a lot of things they don't want to hear from the crowd there because they could say things with impunity because of how white it is. So
Yes,
Tyler Hero, though, I don't know.
90%.
Yeah. People are surprised by that.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on in Utah?
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of Utah, I like one of these guys a lot, which now that I remember saying all of it, you're going to remember it potentially. We do have 25% ownership coming into Colin Sexton and around just north of 10 for Markkanen and Kessler. No Clarkson, no Collins, no Keontae George, no Bryce Sensabaugh. Same thing we had for, I believe, the past 2 games. I have 45% of Lauri Markkanen right now, and I'm going to be honest, I am not mad about it at all. I love getting over the field here for him. I love that it's a 9 o'clock start. This works for me as a GPP pivot.
I'm with it on Markkanen. I'm not high on him. He really just hasn't taken the biggest rate jump with the guards out, which surprises me. Collins out, same thing. He just doesn't become a different player in the way you'd expect Lauri Markkanen to become. Read rebound more, shoot more. The guy who does become kind of a different player is Walker Kessler. He becomes a demon on the boards, has about a 22% rebound rate with all the guys off the court, Collins being the big one that's impeding him there. So I'm getting just shy of 31% of Kessler. I think he's a really good center play today. A little bit low on Sexton, 15% compared to the fields, 20% plus. A little bit low on Markkanen, but basically flat. I have 10%. I got like Markkanen though, because he should shoot more and be better. He just doesn't. And I think Kessler actually does the thing you want him to do, which is just kind of rebound and be a beast.
I don't have much of Kessler. I'm right around the field on Sexton. It's all things Lauri Markkanen for me right now. We'll see how that ends up. I thought I would get a little bit of value on like Collier or Cody Williams or Juzang or Philip Howe, one of these guys, but I think a lot of that is going to have to do with however Cleveland shakes out from value. I would like a little bit of a bump to some of that late value, but I'm okay with it. Give me Markkanen. Join me, everybody. Markkanen's the dude.
Juzang doesn't look bad as like a value if you didn't go the other value way. Like I think on a normal slate, he'd probably be much more owned, would be my guess.
If Cody Williams wasn't so god awful on a per minute basis, he could be interesting today, but doesn't appear to be that dude today. 496 likes right now, 2,000 viewers. Good work, everybody. We're going to get up over 500 just from me saying this. Spags, tell the people where to find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Spags and check out my Splash Play NBA channel at Splash Play NBA Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. I'm on there showing my projections, talking about how they differ from Stokastics, making some stands, looking at some prop markets, all that. So please go check it out, subscribe, do all that. And good luck tonight, guys.
There we go, everybody. We're all done here. Coming up next, right now, stay on this stream. NBA Live Before Lock is next, and I'll see you on playback at 7 p.m.
That was crazy.
This Matt might probably. This is the nice Matt. This is nice Matt. You will treat me with love, respect, love or not fighter. I appreciate that, but fight on or something. I don't know. Notre Dame, Penn State, that'll be fun. But we're talking NBA live before lock, of course. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist. New logo. I kind of love the new logo. Excited about the new logo behind us. We're going to have some new cool things starting to roll out here over at Stokastic, of course. We have playback going here on one side. We've got YouTube going on the other. And the guy who's going to be covering it all alongside me is Matt Belman. You can follow him over on X at Fantasy Tips Matt. How you doing, my dude?
I am good, man. Fun slate we got tonight, coming off one of the best regular season basketball games you'll ever see, in my opinion. Hard to get hyped about regular season NBA these days, but man, Cavs and Thunder really live to expectations, and they play again next Thursday night. So me and you will be talking about that game, which I can't wait for.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know, it feels like you get these games that just kind of like elevate to playoff level. Like, I felt more hype about yesterday's game than I did the NBA Cup, because I knew the NBA Cup finals didn't matter. And it's like, these are the kind of regular season games that it's just like you don't get enough of those over the course of a year, not to tune into every single minute. We had SGA just shot making in the fourth quarter. You had an unbelievable run there Donovan Mitchell didn't even play well. Didn't even matter because he's doing enough on the defensive end to justify being out there all the time anyway. Max Strus coming along. Evan Mobley too, just an absolute badass.
Yeah, the Cavs are really fun to watch. I was thinking about that today and feeling bad for you that Minnesota was kind of on their level to being a team like that until obviously that trade has not worked out for them. But yeah, the Cavs are really fun to watch on a nightly basis, and they're again on the slate tonight. So excited to talk about them. Yeah,
I'm optimistic though going forward. I think we're starting to.
It was all about the money.
DiVincenzo too, getting into the starting lineup and justifying what he's been doing of late. Like, he was always going to be, for me, the more impactful guy between him and Randall in the trade. I was never excited about Randall, but the fact that we're at least going to close sometimes without him has me optimistic that at the deadline, maybe we can move him for something else. But yeah, the money was never going to work long-term. Having Ant, having Cat, I get why we did it. It still sucks, but I'm optimistic going forward. But obviously, being a Cavs fan, as what you are, congratulations. You got yourself an actual basketball team with an actual coach. Kenny Atkinson, coach of the year.
Awesome. Yeah, easy coach of the year. He's done a phenomenal job, and this team has made steps every year, but they're well positioned with Mobley taking the next step. Garland, as Josh tweeted out this morning, having a spectacular year. So I'm very excited about the Cavs. We'll see if they can do it in the playoffs, but you could say that about every team until they do it. So I'm just enjoying the ride. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about our Vikings? Darnold looked strong until he didn't. I guess that was the first game that I've seen him like trigger shy all season long. I'll write it up as Detroit is a really good football team, and you knew you were going to have to put up points going into it. We didn't put up points going into it, and it wasn't a do or die game. That starts this weekend either in LA or Arizona, depending on where that game is going. But let's put ourselves in position to win some NBA DFS tonight. Let's start with this, because we do have some lingering pieces and Q tags that exist throughout the board, but it almost all exists on the Memphis side of things. We have John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Santi Aldama, Cam Spencer, all five of them with a Q tag sitting there. And I'm just going to ask you this. What are you planning to do in your lineups to account for that news?
Honestly, I'm only playing two lineups tonight. Again, the show, I'm playing two bigger lineups, and Memphis is not a priority for me here. Not even because of Memphis themselves, just because I think other spots are better, no matter how Memphis shakes out. Like, I like other spots better. So I'm not overly concerned with Memphis. They're in one of the toughest spots on the slate. For me, like, again, they're a definite play in 150 because there's so much unknown. But for me, I don't feel the need to get there.
Okay. I feel different if everybody's out. We're talking about the four best players and most impactful players from a fantasy perspective, all on the same team. Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, Desmond Bane, Santi Aldama. If they all end up out, Scottie Pippen at 6K will be Hulk slam good. Zach Edey, potentially hook slam good. You're going to get two mid-range options in Laravian Conchar. And sure, it's Houston on the other side, really good defensively. But those are just price tags that can't be ignored. Plus, they're just going to be lower owned than what they should be relative to their chances of succeeding. And that's usually the name of the game when it comes to late swap. But there's still...
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
The Jaren Jackson, I knew he was questionable, but it kind of just slipped my mind when we were talking about it. So surely if everyone's out, that will open up things. There's a ton of value other than Memphis, but yeah, Memphis would emerge to the top if everyone's out. I was more thinking about it if everyone was out except for Jaren Jackson. And at that point, I think he's just priced to a point where I'm not that interested, and that would affect everyone else. But your point's well taken that if everyone is out, they'll become wildly in play.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that's a big if. I mean, it's just the ball has to get shot from somebody, and everybody, Luke Kennard, Jay Huff, Brandon Clark, I mean, everybody's going to be in play on that entire team if you get all 5 out. If you get like 1 of the 3 out, it's definitely going to be minimal. If you get 2 of the 3, I think you're still going to want to get yourself a little piece of that Kit Kat bar. So I'm going to be paying attention to Utah and Lauri Markkanen, Johnny Juzang, all those guys, and potentially shifting them over to some Memphis pieces earlier. But we have this early game, and this early game is pulling tons of ownership, starting in the Golden State side of things. So let's break this down, because whenever you can jump into the mind of one Steve Kerr, that's always got to feel good, right? But we have Jonathan Kuminga out. Andrew Wiggins ended up joining the party. He's out. Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, out. We've got a ton of ownership coming in on a number of these main pieces, looking at Buddy Hield, pulling a gobsmack of ownership, looking at guys like Steph Curry. Dennis Schroeder is in for this game, which makes it a little less fruitful. But I'm going to ask you this right from the get-go. What stands out to you from the Golden State side? Because it's 3 of the top 4 most owned players on the slate on DraftKings.
Yeah, hard to get away from Golden State here, specifically TJD. I mean, he's just too cheap. Guys are out for Golden State. Certainly, he's not as good of a play as if Draymond were out, but he's playing big minutes. He's a good fantasy producer. He looks like one of, if not the best play on the slate. Ownership is up there, but it's also not like that deep of a center slate where I think the opportunity cost is like crazy high. I don't think that's the case tonight. Now Gafford's in, so that makes a guy like Lively look worse. Jackson Davis looks great. Buddy Hield looks very good. He's 3,600. He's going to get good run here. It's a good matchup. He's coming in with leverage because there's so many good value plays. I'm not sure he's a better value play than Ty Jerome or Karis LeVert. We'll have to see on the Cleveland starting lineup. But if nothing else, like all those guys are in the same tier. It's kind of hard to decipher between them, between those 3 specifically, LeVert, Jerome, and Hield, but they all look very good. And then Schroeder, I like. He's also coming in with leverage. 5,100 Dennis Schroeder in 3 weeks could look crazy because he's been a much more expensive player throughout his career. Certainly now he's with, Steph Curry, so things aren't the same, but this is about as cheap as Schroeder will ever be. So there's something to be said for that. I think Draymond himself is in play here. Nice mid-tier price tag, 5,700. He gets a boost with other guys being out. But as far as the chalky guys go, I would rank them Jackson Davis, Hield, and then Schroeder. But I think you could arrange them in any order. How about you?
I think Buddy Hield's pretty tough to get away from at 3,600. I don't really think he is going to be represented. I mean, once we get the starting news, I'm very interested to see what happens to his ownership, because we're going to get his starting news at the same time, or right, I'm assuming right around the same time as the Cleveland starting news, which I think kind of goes hand in hand. I think I disagree with what we have for the starting lineup. Who do you think starts for Cleveland today?
I think it is, so certainly Allen, Mobley, Garland. I think Jerome still comes off the bench. So I do think LeVert starts. So I think that Jerome is the one that comes off the bench that people are projecting to start, but I still think he's a great play.
Yeah, I think it ends up being Garland, Wade, Mobley, Allen, and the third guy, I think Max Strus just naturally makes sense to throw in there. I like that we have him projected for the 4th most minutes, I think, out of everybody here. Let me check. Yeah, we've got Allen, Mobley, Garland, all projected just short of that 30-minute mark. And then Max Strus sitting there around 25. Karis LeVert's going to be a good option, I think, no matter what happens with him. He's not going to go under the radar by any means. 24.5 minutes we have projected for him. I think whatever we get as far as the starting lineups from their side of things, and from the Golden State side of things are going to really dictate where people go with the majority of their ownership in terms of punts, in terms of anything cheap. So like if you can find and parse out something cheap coming up in the later games, and that's where I've kind of gotten Memphis tagged for me. I look at a guy like Luke Kennard, Brandon Clark, John Conchar. I mean, these are all guys that are sub 5K that I want to try to get a little bit more in my lineups, just in the event that everybody hook slams in all of this early value, which again is probably going to look really good.
It's a lot like last night, to be honest. Like it's the age-old question, is a bird in the hand worth two in the bush? Because we know we have great value right now, but we might also have great value late that's just not going to get the ownership that the early value has. But we don't know that that value is going to come out. So it's tricky. It is very reminiscent of last night where we had all that Philly Washington value, but then as the slate continued, value just opened up everywhere. So some of it worked out, some of it didn't, but it still showed up. And, guys that like Robinson, Earl, DeAndre Jordan starting would have been much higher owned earlier in the day if that news had come out, which is to your Memphis point. Regardless of whether it worked out last night is irrelevant. Like Memphis is going to be very low owned because people will jam in this early value. It's not a question of if, it's just how much.
We've got a couple of super chats here. Salvo G, $4.99, only entering 1 or 2 lineups per night. Would it be beneficial to use the sim tool, or should I just hand build use leverage from boom bust? The best thing that you could possibly use for one lineup is the single lineup simulator that we have over at Stokastic. If you guys aren't familiar with that tool, it's awesome because it is basically going to sim the lineups that you're building up against that pool of lineups, and you can change it from small contest to large contest. And I use this all the time, especially in the NFL streets. The small contest setting, because I always like to roll out one big lineup where it's, going to be a little bit more, like the $40 single entry, the $100 single entry. I'm going to throw all of that usually into the single lineup simulator and have it parse it out. Now, in the NBA streets, obviously you want to be utilizing this maybe a little bit later as news starts coming in, like Bruce Brown ruled out here for Toronto. So that's going to condense them down even a little bit more. And we'll get to Toronto because I think they're probably the most interesting tournament target here. But the single lineup simulator, you can build out your lineup up against that pool of lineups and update it like right up until the 7 p.m. Eastern time window. And you're going to get a really good idea of how good that lineup or poor that lineup is for single entry contests. You can change the percent to first just like you can in the contest generator and the pre-contest simulator when you're building out the 150 or 300 lineup portfolios, utilizing the 10,000 sims in the NFL, the 5,000 sims in the NBA. But that single lineup simulator, man, I tell you, you said that you've been utilizing it quite a bit here as well, Matt. Tell the people about the single lineup simulator because it is awesome.
Well, it kind of just combines the boom bust tool and the sims. I mean, the boom bust tool is generated through the sims. So yeah, if you're making one lineup and you're hand building, it's certainly a great tool to use, but you might as well expand that and throw the lineup into the single lineup simulator and see if it's actually a good lineup, what you can do to tweak it. And yeah, I also don't think that like running the sims, even for one lineup, is you can cater the sims to like however you want to cater it. So yeah, I think you can, like, as always, there's certainly different, a bunch of different ways to skin the cat, if you will. But for me, I'm with you. The single lineup simulator is just the best way to see if your lineup is good or not in the simplest term.
Yeah. So if you haven't checked that out, Salvo G, thanks again for the super chat. That is the most beneficial thing that we have for the Sims tool, specifically for building out 1 or 2 lineups. I promise you. Like for me, I'll build out the full portfolio. I'll generally take my top couple. But if I weren't on this show live every single day, Monday through Friday, I promise you, I would be tweaking things in that lineup simulator while listening to the show over and over and over. It is such a cool, such a fun tool. And I think really clean and easy to use as well. So check that out. Yeah, I work here, but I will definitely tell you when I really like something or when I really don't, and I'm more than happy to express my opinion. I'm in love with the single lineup simulator. I think it's a really incredible addition, especially for the people out there playing 1 or 2 lineups a day. Let's continue on our merry way. I know everybody likes to hear me say that at some portion in the show. Jordan Klein, looking at you. Chat, looking at you. There's always one. But anyway, we've got ourselves some ancillary pieces here on the Golden State side. And I want to ask you about the condensed rotation potential here for Steve Kerr, which is always a dicey thing to say, because just when you don't think that a Quinton Post or a Gui Santos are going to enter the game, surely they will check in forever. Also, the Spencer on Spencer guarding each other was fantastic the other night. I'm not sure if you saw that, but Memphis and Golden State guarding each other, the Spencers. But anywho, we've got to talk about Lindy Waters. We've got to talk about Kyle Anderson. Coming off the bench, these guys are pulling a lot of ownership, and I don't think anybody expects them to be starting. Telling you right now, though, we're going to see some ownership come in on these guys, and I have a tough time figuring out what I want to do with them other than jam them, because I think they're going to be under-owned relative to whomever starts. How do you feel about the ancillary pieces from Golden State coming off the bench?
Like, I'm fine with them on a lot of sites. I think they'd be more appealing on this one. Like, I think those guys, you're better off waiting for news. There isn't the Giannis, the Jokic, the Wemby to spend up on. I just don't think there's that big of a place for those guys on the slate. When we have better value elsewhere, there aren't the spend up guys. Like, I'm cool with the cheap Golden State guys coming off the bench. Sure. Lindy Waters, I think he's fine. Kyle Anderson, I think he's fine. If this game blows out, those guys will get more run. I do think after getting blown out in their last game, though, that Golden State, like, again, it's still just a regular season game, but I'm sure they're going to put their best foot forward here. And I'm just not going crazy with the cheap, Golden State bench guys. Although I'm sure a bunch of them or a couple of them will be good point per play players.
We got, correct me if I'm wrong with the pronunciation of this, but is that Anobi? $4.99 super chat. Again, really appreciate everybody with all these lovely super chats here on the show. Guys, please explain how uniques work when picking top lineups in The Sims. Is 0 uniques ever good? So back in the simulator days, there were the things called uniques where when you were just basically optimizing out your lineups, you wanted to have one. So it would just naturally be on like 0 or 1, where it's going to just change out one person out of every single lineup. The 2 uniques has 2 people changing out in every single lineup. 3 is going to have 3 changing out. Now, when you're going through the Sims for it, it's just, oh yeah, well, I'll get to that here in a second.
Sorry.
I'm just explaining a super chat. $4.99 here.
Sorry.
Oh, you're just fine. So basically, you're taking multiple lineup spots. It's a way to smooth out your lineups to a certain extent, where you could be really condensed and have a ton of really strong stands when you only have 1 unique or 0 uniques, like you're going to have default in The Sims. But when you change that to 2, you're going to get a larger portfolio of players. So instead of maybe like a 40-player portfolio, you might have 60 players that show up in it. Every slate is different. But anything you wanted to add about uniques, Matt?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think you said it best, even though I wasn't paying full attention because I was looking at the news. But when I was listening, you were saying it very clearly.
Okay. Desmond Bain on track to play. Jaren Jackson Jr. on track to play. Santi Aldama on track to play. We're missing one biggie. We're missing one biggie in the middle of it. There it is. John Morant, a game time decision Thursday. That's a biggie. But I will say it's kind of the circumstance we've had forever that's kind of priced appropriately for. So I guess nothing from Memphis.
No, we also got the Cavs lineup like in between all of that. So,
okay, so let's
LeVert
throw that
is
on
starting.
in. We got Garland. LeVert is going to be so fucking popular. Wade, Mobley, Allen. All right. So Karis LeVert, your most popular piece should be, you're going to put him in for, instead of 24 and a half minutes, you're going to put him to 28 minutes and you're going to get him at every freaking lineup. Karis LeVert starting. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. I mean, he's 4,100. Like,
yeah.
He's like as cheap as he'll be, really. And it's a great matchup. I do think there's slight, like, even with him, like there's not even blowout concern because he's starting and he's so cheap. I think you could make that case if he were coming off the bench. I think you can play Garland, LeVert, and Ty Jerome in the same lineup. I think that LeVert and Jerome, and this is why I was saying about Buddy Hield, I think that for me, I like both those guys more than Buddy Hield, but I view Buddy Hield like on their tier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're building out, 1 or 2 lineups. I think when you're building out the entire portfolio, we'll still see. I mean, we haven't gotten the Golden State starting lineup, and maybe Buddy Hield's not in it. And then we got to all look ourselves in the mirror and decide how much we want to go down with the Steve Kerr ship today. Generally speaking, something is going to pop when you're talking about all of these cheap pieces of very condensed rotation, Wiggins being out, Kuminga being out. You're replacing so many minutes at the 3, basically. Like, you have so many minutes available to you where that could easily be Kyle Anderson or Buddy Hield or Lindy Waters makes the most sense, I think, of taking shots of guys who aren't necessarily going to be starting. But if Buddy Hield's not starting, man, that gets tough because he's going to have to go flamethrow in minutes, and you're going to have to hope all of those minutes don't intersect with Steph Curry, because otherwise the usage trap is just, I mean, it's just so hard for me to want to play a really popular Buddy Hield off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Although at that point, though, like, how popular will he be because of the other value plays?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. I mean, the Karis LeVert thing is about
It's-
to absorb so much of the ownership. We've got 34 minutes before lock. We do have the playback show going directly after this. So if you guys want to jump over to playback, I know the link is already in chat there or in the video description box below, but go watch Josh and Greg break everything down for an entire hour after the fact. There's going to be a lot to react to, and there's going to be a lot to sweat today, too. I think it's going to be a fun sweat day with all of the Golden State chalk, with all of the Cleveland chalk. And let's kind of circle back to Cleveland here, because with Karis LeVert starting, I mean, Max Strus off the bench, I'm still interested in. Sam Merrill, I don't know what to make of those minutes right out the gate. Obviously, I faded a very popular Sam Merrill once upon a time, taking on the Celtics, thinking his first game back with an ankle injury, he wouldn't play a lot. And certainly he did not play a lot in that game, but he's still 3,400. I don't really think he's going to pull any ownership whatsoever. Is there anything else to take shots on from Cleveland? Because we know Dean Wade isn't exactly going to go out and absorb usage. Like, I think even George Niang might be a guy to take some shots on.
So I'm good on Strus personally, and it's a lot to do with just how much value there is. He missed a lot of the season. This might be his first back-to-back. He's not playing huge minutes anyways. This game has blowout concerns. I don't think he's going to play like in a massive blowout late in the game. If it does get there, I don't know if he closes either way, even in a close game. So personally, I'm good on Strus. I'd rather play Buddy Hield than Strus. So that's one where, like, I have Buddy Hield lower than LeVert and Jerome, but higher than Strus. But Jerome's the other guy. Like, he's not starting, but he's 3,300, and he's crazy productive, and he's going to play a bunch here, regardless of whether it's a competitive game or a blowout. Like, again, you don't have the high-tier value or expensive guys to spend up for, but I think Jerome is still one of the best value plays on the entire slate. He just eats up a guard position, which is tough, but it's Jerome, it's LeVert, and then the other guy I like that I don't think is going to get a ton of love is Darius Garland. I think there's a little bit of risk with the expensive Cavs. We saw this earlier in the year where they played a really competitive game and then they had a back-to-back. They sat Mitchell, and then the other guys just didn't play a ton. I'm pretty sure that was a blowout, but a lot of the Cavs games have been blowouts this year. But man, Garland is, whether or not you think or I think the Cavs should have 4 All-Stars or not, Garland's making a push right now, and this is a perfect game without Donovan Mitchell. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little extra for him tonight. Again, I'm not playing him because of that, but he's too cheap without Donovan Mitchell. So I'm willing to take out the risk of him not playing as much as we might think with the fact that he's making a serious all-star push right now, and his numbers aren't as good as other guys like LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Maxey. So this is a perfect game for him to boost those numbers a little bit.
Our guy Jason, J187, $25 super chat. Don't you work here? You don't have to super chat us $25. That's not how this works, but my God, do we appreciate you. Took down the big contest over on DK yesterday. 2 great guys here, he says. I would agree. I'll give that a like. I appreciate you, and congratulations, my dude. So good to see. Obviously, the Stokastic Avatar getting a little bit of a rebrand, getting a nice little touch-up, if you will. And we'll talk about the Stokastic Hall of Fame here a little bit down the line. I'll talk about some other stuff here, but let's clean out the super chats. Philly Shizzy, $5. Is LeVert worth it on FanDuel at 5,200? Seems like it's not as good on FanDuel. It's not as good on FanDuel, but it is still freaking awesome to get to Karis LeVert. We've got him really underrepresented. Shooting guard, small forward. Obviously, the ownership is going to come up here, but I think he's one of your best plays on FanDuel as well, Matt.
Yeah, 100%. He's just a great play everywhere. Anywhere you're playing DFS tonight, LeVert's going to be a good play because he's not priced for Mitchell to be out, and he's not priced to be starting.
And he's doing both of those things, or both of those things are occurring, should I say. Salvo G, $4.99, dumb quotation again. LOL, single lineup generator is where? Is it just the NBA lineup generator? No. So if you go into the Sims tool, the single lineup simulator is in the top left corner. So you can go through the purchase stuff there. And there's actually a pretty darn easy way of you getting everything here. The Sims tool, the single lineup simulator, all of that in the NBA streets for an entire month. And here's how. You sign up with one of our 11 partner sites. We've got it going at the link below. You can see above us there as well, the partners, the DFS partners that we have here. We've got Pick'em and stuff on the left, on the right side of the screen. We've got your traditional sports books, and at the bottom, Rebet. That is 11 opportunities, 11 sites that if you haven't signed up at any of them, whether it's DraftKings Pick 6, where you can bet 5 and get $50, or Bet 365, where you bet 5, you get $150. You can sign up with any one of those. Send in those 4 simple steps there. You check the promo, you sign up using the offer, place, and deposit. You send that first betting ticket and your welcome email to support@stokastic.com, and you're going to get yourself a month, yes, a full month of the NBA Sims tool, or maybe you want the NFL Sims tool instead that'll lead you all the way up to the Super Bowl. Go ahead and sign up and utilize that one as well. You have to specify which one you want there in the support email, or our guy Ron, the news god, is going to lose his mind. Don't let Ron lose his mind. Be kind. Let him know that you want the NBA Sims, and sign up for that at one of those 11 sites, and you will get access to everything there, including that single lineup simulator. It's a free way to do it. So check that out if you are so interested. It's only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Alrighty, let's take a look here. We got Ant DiVincenzo continuing to start here for the Wolves. That is always something to double check on. I always double check that because I still can't believe we're actually doing smart things. But Karis LeVert, 4,100. I mean, you're not going to make a lineup today without him, are you?
No, I don't think there's, I mean, honestly, like, no, but you're not crazy to, because, you know, if the tools I've just updated, and all those cheap Golden State guys that I was just poo-pooing are now like, it's LeVert and then 4 Golden State guys in the boom bust tool. So like those guys do look a little bit better than I thought. And while I like LeVert more, I don't think it's like drastically. And those guys are like 3K. So I'm playing LeVert, but do with that info what you will.
Yeah, I'm going to play LeVert. It just makes all the sense. And then we'll kind of fill in the rest of the lineup spots based on the Golden State starting lineup. We'll obviously cover that. I think even if Kyle Anderson or Lindy Waters doesn't start, they're going to look awesome to me and still be pieces of value you want to get to. We just have such a condensed rotation without Kuminga, without Wiggins. And here you go. Buddy Hield officially starting. Curry, Schroeder, Hield, Green, Jackson Davis. If you're playing cash, you're just clicking on Karis LeVert. You're clicking on Buddy Hield. You're probably just getting to every spend up Cade Cunningham you probably find like all the funds for. There's not much else to say. You're playing Buddy Hield now too.
Yeah, you are playing Buddy Hield in cash specifically, but man, all these good guard plays is making my nuke of the night even more low owned. And
Ooh.
I don't even, I'm teasing it. I feel almost embarrassed to even talk about the nuke of the night after Anthony Edwards last week. Although I will say, after he nuked my lineups, he's been amazing since then. So the point was still on a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't like him that day. I can't remember why. I don't know what it was. Maybe me being contrarian. I'm not a good enough host here, helping out my co-host. That is my apologies, because I just kind of like cringed on it. And yeah, Minnesota's played better. DiVincenzo in the starting lineup has led to Ant feeling a little bit more free, a little bit easier. Mike Conley ball handling. It ain't what it used to be in Utah or the Lightning, or Memphis back in the day for sure. Glad to see some better brand of basketball showing up here finally for my Minnesota Timberwolves. Hopefully that continues. But let's do the nuke of the night then. Jordan Klein, hit the animation. Slap into base, slap into base. So Matt was a little embarrassed to bring up his nuke of the night. He's a little shy. He's a little scared. Here's the thing. You can hit the like button and give him some love, but I'm going to give him some love now. Whatever you say, my friend, I'm going to give you a little boost in the old Sims tool as I'm finishing out my lineups. I want to know, Matt Belman, who is your nuke of the night?
It's a guy I specifically and intentionally did not bring up when we talked about the game earlier. It's tough to get there because of the guard position and it's coveted. But Steph Curry is my nuke of the night. I think he gives Cade Cunningham and the Pistons the work here. It's easy to get to him in the sense that we have so much value that it's easy to spend up on him. If you can make it work at the guard position, I love Steph Curry here. If the game stays competitive, I think he certainly has a chance to be the highest scorer on the slate, which you can't say that often about Steph Curry anymore. But on this specific slate, I think he can.
I'm going to go... which direction do I want to go with this? Because, well, I'm going to continue just riding the hot hand here. And it's not point chasey if it's going to be positive leverage and something you want to get to. But how many game environments has Utah just created out of thin air in the course of the last few weeks? I mean, we've seen 124, 121 against Atlanta, an absolute thriller. 136, 100, 119, 103 with the Knicks, which actually went over. Denver, 132, 121. They play zero defense whatsoever. They have a litany of injuries. Clarkson, Keontae George. And I'm not looking at the Utah side, but I think there's some Utah pieces to get to. I love Jaime Jaquez right now. 5,300. The guy played 46 minutes. 10 minutes you trim off of the Sacramento game because it went to double overtime. So still, 34, 36, 29 minutes. He would have played more against Golden State if they hadn't just put the thumping on him. Now, he had a random triple-double. I don't expect anything like that, but small forward, power forward, 5,300. There are a lot of ways where some of these other cheap guys don't necessarily work out. Now, I'm not going to poo-poo Levert or Hield. I'm looking at some of the ancillary Golden State pieces that I want to get to in 150, but I think I'm going to end up on lower. And then when I'm playing one lineup to roam all, one lineup to find them, I like getting to those extra pieces of Miami, Utah. I like Markkanen, and I really like Jaime Jaquez. I can't believe he's my nuke of the night, but here we are.
I love Jaquez. I have two. I ended up playing 3 lineups tonight. He's certainly in 2 of them at least. He's way too cheap for his new role now with Butler gone. Yep. He can fill up the stat sheet as we saw against the Kings the other night.
Yep.
You don't expect that, but man, he is 5,300. And I think his ownership just drops as more value comes out because you just don't need it. And I still think he's one of the best plays on the slate. I'm with you there. I also like Rozier on Miami.
Don't say Jaime, please. Damn it. Why is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I feel like my nuke of the night has been better than it's been bad. I'm going to just throw this out there. Nuke of the Night's been an absolute smash this year. Like, you can say whatever you want about the entire portfolio of my lineups. I've had some good. Sometimes maybe good. Sometimes maybe shit. But Nuke of the Night's been a smash, Matt Belman.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I love Jaquez here, so let's get it.
22.5 against the Heat recently. What? I don't know what that is. Love Jaime. Okay, I love all of this stuff. We've got, 22 minutes here to break down, and we've got some new ownership that's kind of flooding in. We haven't even talked about, the really, really, really popular piece that is Amin Thompson. And Amin Thompson, man, with Tari Eason out, I don't know what the flying F we just saw the other night, but I can tell you one thing. If I could reverse engineer my lineups, I'd be a much richer person. Amin Thompson, absolute floor game, and I think it was in conjunction with a floor game from somebody else. It was the triple-double, Giannis. He absolutely smashed in 29 minutes, and then he didn't end up getting in there. We did get Asar Thompson back in the starting lineup. We'll talk about that here, but Amin Thompson, how do you feel about him coming off of 41 minutes back-to-back games? One of them was close. One of them was a blowout. Didn't matter. He just stayed out there.
Yeah, I mean, even with all this value, I think you could still make the case that he's the best play on the slate because he's playing massive minutes. Maybe not the best play on the slate, but you have to spend your money somewhere. And he looks like one of the most solid guys to spend that money on. I mean, he should be 8K right now with those guys out, with the role he has, with the minutes he plays. One of these games, it's probably going to come crashing down to earth. He's benefited from other guys being in foul trouble. I'm sure that he's going to get in foul trouble soon enough, but you're not projecting that. And he's just too cheap at 7,100. He does everything on the floor. He's a freak athletically. I think he's a rock solid play, and you got to spend your money somewhere. So I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. Doesn't seem like you like him as much.
No, I like him very much. It's just frustrating that that other night, I was expecting Cam Whitmore to chip in and to get out there and put his thing down, and it never happened because they just kept Amin Thompson out there, and it was just okay. I felt like it was an educated stand to be lower on that piece that was in the mid range and just move to some of the later pieces. But nope, you definitely wanted all the Amin Thompson and all the land. I'm rated around 50% of him. I'm going to be happy with that in my 150 and in my one big lineup. I think it's hard to get away from, so I'm just going to be clicking on him and getting different elsewhere, which I will talk about how I plan to be doing that in single entry. And obviously, most of what Matt does is single entry, 3 max, and then also just playing the big GPP over on DraftKings on a day in, day out basis. We did have a couple of FanDuel shows. Hang on. Freudian Slip, $4.99. This wouldn't be the show I know and love without the exotic play of the day. Oh my God. We haven't done the exotic play of the day forever, so you know what? Jordan Klein. Don't giggle. Just went right into it. Okay. Let's go right into it. Fuck it. I don't matter. Hayden Pritchard, the original exotic. This is so absurd that we have a frickin' graphic. Like, the day Brody did that. Reed Shepard, is he alive? He just got sent to the G League.
Monster game in the G League.
Oh my God.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
Matt Belman, who's your exotic play of the night?
You know what? I'm going to go with a guy I mentioned in passing earlier that I like more now. And he's of the exotic variety. I think he's Native American, but I'm not sure what other nationality he is. Give me Lindy Waters III as the exotic play of the night.
You're throwing out Lindy to Lindy. Also, there was that one chick.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm just
Didn't
saying.
think about that. Yeah, love that. Love that for us.
I feel like now I have to play him. I've never thought about it that way. But do we like Mobley? Yes, we like Mobley as well. But he is not going to be the exotic play of the night. I think there is one man that can be your exotic play of the night. There's only one man that I think is like remotely close, and it has to be Jaime Jaquez. He has to double down. I know it's, some might argue that, you know, not like straight up exotic play of the night, but I think it's close. I think it's lovely, and I think he qualifies for me. Jaime Jaquez, he's pulling double duty, exotic play of the night and nuke of the night. Let's party, shall we? Because who else would I even play? Who else even gets nominated?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a
Alperen
good question.
Şengün?
Nah.
No. Well, Thompson bros killing the slate. All right. Yeah, I definitely think we want to talk about Asar Thompson starting to some extent. He's in that mid-range. I don't know what the ownership gets on here for him, but hasn't played now since the 4th, I believe. He's had a couple of days off in between. 26 minutes is where we saw him last time. I think he's okay to have in some large field, but no way is he a priority with like much cheaper options like Hield and Levert and all of the Golden State pieces.
Yeah, it's not a slate for Asar Thompson for me. If he were cheap like the other guys, sure, but no thanks. Even though he's certainly got upside, the minutes aren't quite there yet, and he's not cheap enough like the other guys. So he'd be in my pool if I were max entering, but I'm not, so I'm not playing him.
Nathan Joyce saying Bogdan Bogdanovic. I don't think Bogdan ends up playing today. He got a random questionable tag that popped up. I don't think Bogdan's going to play basketball today for what it's worth.
Yeah,
So,
maybe not.
Tell you one thing, Vic Krejci ain't going to be my exotic play of the night. That is for sure. We got the nuke. We got the exotic. We continue on our merry way. 17 minutes. Could you smash the like button for us? That would be lovely. That would be nice. It also would be great if you could finish at the top of a tournament with the Stokastic badge, which again, getting a nice little rebrand. I don't know if you noticed behind me. Did you notice behind me? Kind of a
Yeah,
nice,
I
nifty
did.
new
Of
logo.
course I did. Yeah, I love the spunked up logo.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Anyway, the Stokastic Hall of Fame. You will be seeing some new avatars there, but continue utilizing our avatar that we have going right now. Stokastic.com/HOF. Over on X, Stokastic HOF. Follow it. Love it. Utilize it. When you finish in the top 3 of a tournament of 5,000 or more entries, you will get yourself access to The Sims for free for an entire month. Yes, you will take advantage of it. Let us know which sport you want it in, NBA, NFL, things of that nature. But Stokastic.com/HOF, that's where you sign up. That's where you download the avatar. And I repeat, getting a nice little rebrand here, but tweet your wins to Stokastic HOF. Check it all out, my friends. Would love to see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight. 16 minutes to go here. Let's look at how things have changed here in terms of ownership. I mean, Amin Thompson's still pulling a lot of ownership. I'm surprised to see Karis LeVert at just 41%. I think Karis LeVert is going to be very, very, very popular. I'm almost like, if Amin Thompson ends up more popular than Karis LeVert, I would be shocked.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Although to that point, like there's a lot of value and there aren't a lot of desirable spend up options. And Amin Thompson is one of those guys. So I think you could see a situation where the value is more spread out than the spend up options, which is another reason I like Curry a lot because he's not getting a lot of love.
Look at that. FanDuel Sims on the screen for all the FanDuel people. FanDuel need love to, no discrimination here, squirrel. So keep your hands off my cheeks and let me study how I rap the beach, you big freak. That's a great song, by the way, too. I like the way you move. by Outcast. Speakerbox, love below. That's one of the OGs. But we head over to DraftKings.com. Looking at the top of the board there, let's look at some spend ups. We haven't talked about who we want to be spending up for in our lineups. And I think Trae Young, Cade Cunningham have been playing ridiculous fantasy basketball here of late. Real life basketball, in fact, for both of them. Cade Cunningham pulling a little bit more ownership, but they're your only 10K options. Everything else exists in the 9K range. We have Kevin Durant, really, really desirable in our tools here, going up against, a great game environment here for Phoenix, getting Atlanta into the dome there. We've got the Miami, Utah pieces that I like to mix into lineups here as well. I think Kevin Durant makes a lot of sense, and our tools absolutely love kind of in jest, not perfectly. It wasn't anything insulting there, my friend. And then Devin Booker, also at 9K, pulling nearly 30% ownership, which is a little bit wild to me, but you continue to get Bradley Beal off the bench. That's more minutes for these main guys. Without him, that is what you call useful. How do you look at the spend ups here? Who are you going to be putting in 9K and above into your lineups tonight?
I love KD here. I mean, I'm already overloaded on guards. I said I like Curry. I've played Booker the past 2 slates, so I liked him a lot at very low ownership against Philly. He was awful, but he started to get going late. So I bought in again last time against Charlotte, and he was very, very good. And I like him again here. I just like other guards more. And KD, I mean, again, I've said it a bunch of times. You got to spend your money somewhere. He's probably my favorite overall spend up option, as solid as it gets with upside. I love this matchup for KD. This game, I think, has untapped upside just in general.
Yeah, I think KD and Booker make a ton of sense going up against Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta just bringing all of that pace. And I brought this up before, but I don't think Bogdanovich plays. There's one guy that I'm boosting in the Sims from Atlanta, and it's strange because he's just kind of playing a much, much different role here for this basketball team this season. But DeAndre Hunter, I think, has chances to get up to 30-plus minutes in a couple of these games going forward. They've got Bogdanovich dinged up. Obviously, Jalen Johnson's been out. But I think there's a world where you just see him absorb a couple of those more minutes. Risa Shea, I mean, he's been playing routinely like mid-20s minutes without much change to that. Garrison Matthews has been jumping into the rotation, played 26-19 the last 2. I guess he could just absorb a couple of those minutes. And Vit Krejci, I think, continues to start, 26, 28 minutes for Vit Krejci on a day-in, day-out basis. But this game environment just looks awesome for those spend-ups, specifically Trae Young, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Those are my 3 kind of priorities. And then Cade Cunningham, he makes a little bit of sense there at 10-2. We have so much Golden State interest, but I will say this. I think at 10-2, and I think Beasley, and then getting Asar Thompson, who's somebody who can generally do stuff from a fantasy perspective, I'm not as aggressively in on Cade Cunningham as what I've been in recent slates.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, it's just for me, it's about too many guards that I like. Now, he is a good example of you got to spend up somewhere. So I think he's another guy. Like, in some ways, he looks more desirable on this slate than he would on others because we don't have the Giannis's, Jokic's of the world. But in others, he doesn't because of how many good guard plays there are. And there still are spend up options like Durant, etc. So I'm out on Cunningham here, knowing that he could certainly be very good.
You want to start going through position by position, talking through some of our favorite plays here as we lead ourselves into final questions, and then we'll be at lock and we'll turn it over to playback.
Let's do it.
All right. Point guard, your favorite chalky option, favorite contrarian option?
I'm going to say my favorite chalky option is Jerome. My favorite contrarian is Curry.
Favorite chalk option
Jerome isn't even popular.
Who?
Jerome. So they're
Ty
both
Jerome's
contrarian.
not popular at all. So I definitely think that that's a good shout out at the point guard spot. I will say favorite chalky going to be Cole Anthony. Somebody brought him up in the chat, said that he wasn't popular anymore. He's 5,800. I feel really good about Cole Anthony today. I'll save Karis LeVert for shooting guard. I guess him and Buddy Hield both kind of the main guys there. But I'm going to go with you with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Darius Garland. I really like him at point guard. Shooting guard, my friend.
LeVert easy. And then, I don't know. It's hard not to say just the cheap guys. So LeVert and Buddy Hield. They just project so well.
Yep. I think LeVert, Buddy Hield, shooting guard are great. From a contrarian perspective, who do I have showing up in my lineups here? Just got my final Sims in. This is a disturbing one. I don't love this, but Terry Rozier showing up for me at 5K. eventually.
I love Rozier.
Can we get a little bit of like Terry Rozier usage? That would be nice, Tyler Hero. One-time dealer, one time. But let's go to small forward.
Small forward's going to be Amen Thompson pretty easily for me.
Yep, same here. And then contrarian.
Contrarian small forward, we will go with, let's go with, this is ugly, but Kyle Anderson.
Jaime Jaquez for me. It would be weird if I didn't say Jaime Jaquez is just kind of your
I
guy
left that
here.
one for you.
18%. He's just an awesome play today. Let's go to power forward. Chalky, Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Kevin Durant for sure for me there.
Evan Mobley, I think you could also throw into that grouping. Contrarian power forward. This is where I've got a freaky naughty one.
I'm interested to hear that one. For me, contrarian, Draymond. But I will say Kyle Anderson isn't a small forward, so I'll say Lindy Waters is my other one.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, my freaky naughty one at power forward. It's disturbing, but I don't see how you don't like a little bit of Asar Thompson in your life today. 4,600. I'm gonna get to him over the field. I'm gonna have about 20% of him. So he's what, 9%, 8% owned. Asar Thompson had a pretty good feel on the pulse there. I like that one. Rerunning my lineups. And at center.
Yep. Center is going to be Trace Jackson Davis, contrarian, Walker Kessler, which is a nice segue into, we haven't talked about Utah at all. What's your thoughts on the Jazz?
Love Walker Kessler. Love Lauri Markkanen. Love probably going to be Colin Sexton a little bit when it's all said and done. I'm sorting through these lineups and I'll have a better idea of just how much of him I get, but he's pulling right around 19, 20% ownership. He's a little bit over-owned, but I still think he's all right for tournaments. I mean, God, am I just going to say every Heat player is like a contrarian piece? Probably. Bam Adebayo, contrarian at center. I think chalky center, Trace Jackson Davis makes all the sense.
I also like Bam too.
What was that? It just came in. Why? It like just came in like less than 45 seconds ago. We have 7 minutes. Chris Albers, $2. Thank you for the super chat. Jordan Klein, the most spastic producer in the game named Jordan Klein. I don't think it's close. What do you all think about Jonathan Isaac? I think he's a really good real-life basketball player. I think he's also a good fantasy point per minute basketball player. This game has a sub 200 total. It's got tons of issues for me as far as like what Jonathan Isaac's minutes upside can be. He played 25 out of the middle of nowhere. He is 3,400. I don't think that that's something that we can kind of rely on going forward, but you did get Paolo Banchero moved to Friday. They are on a back-to-back. There are ways where he walks into more minutes. I thought Wendell Carter would be the main primary beneficiary. His minutes have been all over the place. 18 to 34, depending on the day, depending on the mood. With Jalen Suggs out, you got to think that there's usage available, and Cole Anthony is going to be out there a lot. That's why I kind of talked about him being a chalky option. I like, despite the game environment, but I get the case for Jonathan Isaac. If FanDuel, I don't think you would probably want to be going that direction at 4,100, but I think on DraftKings 3,400 to get a little bit different, don't mind it whatsoever.
I'm with you.
Cool. Not going to be in my first lineup, that's for sure. But yeah, Asar Thompson, Amen Thompson, going to be over on both of them. Answer my $2 question. That is Pierre. Where is the $2 question? I will find it here. Allrat 14. Yep, I got it. Allrat 14, $2 says Cole Anthony fell down as a great play. No, he is not. I just brought that up here again. Thank you for the super chat. And Pierre, $2. If Mavs in play, rank top 4 Mavs on FanDuel. I would love to do that with you. I would actually be honored to do that with you. If you could pull that up, Jordan Klein.
I'm going to just answer the first part and say, I don't think the Mavs are really in play anymore.
Oh, on FanDuel they are. We got Najee Marshall at 5K. Najee Marshall 5K on FanDuel is an appealing, spicy little meatball. I think he's by far number one for me. And then I think Derek Lively at 6,200 is definitely in play. It sucks to have Gafford back. I'm shocked he came back. They were saying he was like week to week or something, he was going to miss multiple games. He missed one freaking basketball game, and he's already back. So that's annoying, especially for my year-long fantasy basketball team. Yes, those do exist. But Derek Lively, 6,200 on FanDuel, number 2 for me. Number 3 is going to be PJ Washington, almost by default. Number 4, Spencer Dinwiddie. Probably am not going to any of the ancillary Dallas pieces if I were playing FanDuel today. Matt, do you have anything to add about Dallas Mavericks on FanDuel?
No, as I was saying earlier, I don't think that Dallas looks great on DK, but on FanDuel, they're cheaper. And I think they're just a better overall team for FanDuel purposes anyways. But for me, I'm not looking at them. And yeah, I will say Ausar Thompson looks really good on DK now.
Yep. Ryan Renebaum, member for 21 months, Team Stokastic, top 5 GPP and value plays for DK and FanDuel. We did it for DraftKings already. Let's go run the gamut over on FanDuel for the people. I know, I know I'm not playing over there, and I know Matt isn't, but we definitely have all the projections, everything here. I built out 150 in the Sims here. Seeing your question, let's go through those. Favorite point guard for me over there on the FanDuel slate. Here it is. I've got Colin Sexton, my highest owned, and then contrarian piece that I like. Karis LeVert, again, he's shooting guard, small forward, so that doesn't help. Trae Young, love Trae Young, 20%. That's too low.
Yeah, I'm with you.
To shooting guard, I'll just run through this one here for you so we can get our lineups in and get back to the DK stuff here, rounding it out. Shooting guard, Jaime Jaquez, contrarian piece that's showing up here, Tyler Hero. At small forward, Kevin Durant just jumping away with the position for me. Amin Thompson jumping away with the position. And then contrarian piece at small forward, Najee Marshall. Just talked about that, 20% owned, a little bit underutilized. Power forward, Kevin Durant, again, if you want to go that direction. Kyle Anderson as well. Good piece of cheap chalk, 4K for him. Contrarian piece there, Lauri Markkanen showing up markedly more lineups, no pun intended. Yep. Get your lineups in. Get your lineups in. That's what you need. Get your lineups in. Nothing like an Amber Alert while we are live on a show here. That's what we were looking for. It's good. It's good. It's good. I should probably get my lineups in, huh? Good quality television / programming going on right now.
What was the Amber Alert? Now you have to inform us.
It's just there's fire everywhere around me. Everything's on fire at all moments, so don't mind me.
Yeah, I figured something like that.
Won't be the first time Eric didn't get his lineups in. Yeah, that would not be the case. I'm going to upload these here right now. We're going to just find out whatever gets uploaded in here. Who are going to be the most important players coming up later in the slate that you're going to be paying attention to news? Do you think John Morant plays? Is there anything else you want to be mining out with late swap? Because I feel like the slate is pretty straight up now.
Yeah, no. I mean, we got the Memphis news, and it's not that big of a slate anyways, so not really. I mean, NBA surprise stuff can always happen, but nothing I'm like anticipating having to change. And I'm going to be using a lot of my roster spots early anyways. It's a lot of early guys and then a lot of Durant and then other guys mixed in.
All right. Anything that it's like standing out to you from the first couple of games here, the chalk that you were absolutely 100% eating? Did you end up rolling a Ty Jerome lineup out?
Yeah, I have 2 Ty Jeromes because I think that
both of them.
He gets no. Well, I ended up playing 4. Sorry, it kind of extended as we were doing the show. I started to like the slate more, and I saw a contest wasn't fully filling, so I'm playing 2 Ty Jeromes. I'm playing a ton of LeVert. He's the chalk I can't get away from. Buddy Hield also looks amazing. So LeVert and Hield, and then Amen Thompson. I feel like this is the type of slate where the lineups just kind of build themselves, to be quite honest.
All righty. Well, we're going to get ourselves the heck up out of here. We've got Josh Engleman, Greg Ehrenberg coming to you over on playback.tv/Stokastic. Check it all out. I don't know why Josh is getting rained on, but okay. Oh, that's so weird. Why is that happening? Whatever. If you want to see what I'm talking about, jump over to Playback here right now. The link is in chat. Thank you, Jordan Klein. Thank you, Matt Belman. Follow him at Fantasy Tips Matt over on X. Any final word for the people as we get out of here?
No, good luck tonight.
Those are easy enough words. Playback, the hour-long show coming to you right now. Let's get the heck up out of here. Best of luck in the NBA DFS streets tonight.